Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I know the background is a bit different. I'm trying out this thing where I just film wherever is most comfortable for me, and sitting at my desk is most comfortable for me. Usually I sit at the settee, that's my usual filming spot, and then my room is the background, which is a lot nicer, but sitting down on the floor for too long kind of hurts my knees. So this is me trying to make it easier on myself to film even sit down videos, but I know the background doesn't look very interesting, but hopefully that doesn't bother you too much. So today is the first sit down talking video that I'm filming in I think over 2 months. Is it over 2 months? I think so. I think it's been about 2 months. The last sit down video, if I'm not wrong, might have been my books that changed my life video, and that was maybe in May that I filmed that. I'm not too sure, I can't really remember anymore, but the past few videos have been check-ins. Like there was one check-in that I also filmed here, and a couple vlogs which are more casual. So I'm filming on my regular Sony camera, so the quality might look a bit different from the vlogs. So for today's video, this was kind of inspired by the recent stuff happening in my life. I won't go into it here, but I did talk about it a lot in my check-in video. Basically, it's just been a tough couple months, and I was trying to make a list of the things that usually cheer me up or make me feel a bit better or help me cope. And it ended up being quite a comprehensive list of 10 things, and I thought it would make quite a good video actually. So this is that video, and I think I might even call it something like the 10 habits that changed my life, because truly I think it's these little things that I do every day that help support my life in making sure that even when I'm going through a tough time, I am able to stay afloat, whether it's burnout or dealing with mental health issues or going through a particularly stressful period. I find that these 10 habits, if I make an effort to maintain them, then it prevents me from sinking into complete despair. That's been my experience. And the point of the habits are also that they are not difficult to implement. Once you integrate them into your life, they should be almost automatic to do. You don't really have to think too much about them. There are a few habits on this list where it might take a bit more effort, but for the most part, a lot of these are really habits that are such an integral part of my life that I cannot imagine not doing them, except in very catastrophic circumstances, which is also very possible. I think this video was inspired also by my reading of Atomic Habits recently. I reread the book a couple months back. After reading that book, I started making a list on my phone of all the things that I do. So it all started with this note that I had on my phone where I think I titled it something like proof that I'm doing okay. So even at the end of very difficult days or days where I feel like I'm not productive or I didn't get anything done, I don't feel like anything went right, so I look at this note and I go through it and I see that, oh, actually I'm doing all these things. These are things that are still going well in my life, and so my life is not a mess after all. And then that note kind of grew from there. I started writing even the most minuscule things that I do every day that help to keep me on track or keep me afloat, and that I do them regardless of whether it was a good day or a bad day. Something as simple as like taking a shower is on that list. At first I thought it might be quite a silly video to make to talk about these very obvious habits. I'm sure none of these things will be very surprising to you, but I had an idea. I had an idea that, you know, it's not the individual things that you do, it's the combination of all these things. Sometimes you just need the simple wins, the small wins, especially when your day is not going right, and I think this is when it becomes especially important. Of course, when your day is going well, then you have bigger wins to celebrate, but on just regular days or days where you don't feel as good, sometimes even knowing that you did all these little things for yourself can make you feel, can keep you going to the next day to keep trying to do bigger things. That was what I was thinking, at least for this video. Oh, another thing I wanted to add is that I say that these habits changed my life, but really what I mean is that it gives my life a structure to sort of follow. I'm a very routine and structure kind of person, so I kind of need these pillars that signpost the beginning of my day, the end of my day, maybe even the middle of the day, and that keeps me grounded and I feel more stable And these are also habits that I consider my bare minimum. Even if I could not accomplish anything else in the day, if I am able to do most of these things, or if these things are in order, then I know that my life is going okay. So with that long intro out of the way, let's start with the very first thing on the list, which is my personal hygiene routine. At first I called it my skincare routine as like a catch-all phrase for everything that falls under personal hygiene, but then I thought personal hygiene sounds more encompassing. But what I mean by personal hygiene is really just what it sounds like, making sure that I shower every day, making sure that I'm brushing my teeth every day, making sure that I'm putting on my skincare routine every day. This is one of those things where it's just unthinkable for me to not be doing these things. But when I really think about it, when I sit back and think about it, my life would not be able to function as well if I stopped doing these things. So as boring as it is, as obvious as it is, it's actually an integral part of my day-to-day life. And so with that realization, it kind of made me grow to appreciate this routine, this habit a lot more. Even though it's so basic, it is so important to me. So for instance, I have a very specific morning routine. My night routine is even more extensive. I have a very specific way that I do my nightly ablutions. Like, I will brush my teeth first, and then I'll shower, and then I'll do my skincare routine in a very specific way. And it's just a routine that I've developed over the years, and I've also slowly added new things like making sure that I do a body scrub every week, or I do a hair mask every week. In my head, I kind of have like a internal priority of things that needs to happen. So most importantly for me, like if I cannot do anything else for whatever reason, at least I must brush my teeth. And then after I get my dental hygiene sorted, and then I can think about showering, which is my body routine. And then lastly is my skincare, the products that I apply on my face. I go sort of from inside out. That is the priority in which things need to happen. Of course, most days I do all three. Very rarely do I not do any of those three things. The only situation I imagine myself not doing any of the three is if there is an apocalypse or something. So that is also how I structure what is most important to the thing that I can live without. And I'm quite proud of it. It's gotten to the point where I don't even have to think about these routines. It becomes muscle memory to me. But I know that at the end of each routine, I will feel cleansed and refreshed and almost like spiritually wiped clean of whatever happened in the day. And that's a really good feeling to have. Even if it was a terrible day, at least at the end of the day, I can do my night routine and just go to sleep feeling like clean and washed away of everything that happened. One thing I try to do with my personal grooming routine is also to make it as low cost and as low maintenance as possible, so nothing that will take too much effort. For instance, I've always wanted to be like a face mask person. I've always loved the idea of putting on a face mask as part of my self-care, but it's always been quite effortful for me. So that's not something that I've been able to incorporate very successfully because it's a bit more effortful than my usual routine. But other things I've managed to integrate into my routine. So for instance, flossing. I've never been one to floss, but I incorporated it a few years back and it's just like a seamless part of my routine. I cannot imagine doing my dental routine without it. So everybody's routine might look different, but for me, my personal hygiene routine has just been a really important part of how I take care of myself every single day and how I show up for myself as well. So that is habit number 1. Habit number 2 that has changed my life is managing my finances. If you've watched my channel for a really long time, you know that I started out as a personal finance channel. I have many old videos where I talk about how I manage my personal finances, and those videos are pretty old, but I feel like my routine and my philosophy towards personal finance hasn't really changed. The principles that I follow are pretty timeless, at least, and there are really only so few principles that make good personal finance habits, and once you put all of them into practice, then there's really not much else to work on. You just let it work for you in the background. And that's how I feel with my personal finance right now. I guess how I keep on top of it is that I always create a new budget for every month and I track my expenses. And that is, again, a habit that is just so ingrained in me that I don't think twice about doing it. But the fact that I still do it helps keep me on top of my finances with not that much effort. So that is something that I know for sure has changed my life. The way that I've structured my finances, the little habits that I've retained over the years, like tracking my expenses and keeping on top of my budget every month, and setting myself financial goals every year. And most obviously, the fact that I make videos about my personal finance is what started this whole YouTube thing for me. So making an effort to manage my finances has really been one of the best decisions of my life. And I really cannot stress enough just how much of an impact it has made. So that is one habit that I'm really proud of myself for incorporating in my life. Like even sometimes I think when I'm in the train and I'm miserable because the train is crowded and I'm tired after work and nothing has gone well, sometimes I just think at least my finances are okay. It's the little things that you hold on to console yourself when things are not going right. And that is one thing that I know is going well in the background of my life, and I'm really proud of myself for at least maintaining that. Sometimes on my most miserable days, I'm not able to write down all my expenses, but I'll write them down the next day. So it's really just as simple as that, where I make sure that I never let it slip for more than a day. And I know that that contributes to the overall feeling of relief and managing my anxiety around money. So that is habit number 2. The third habit that has changed my life is reading. I have always read a lot growing up. That was my hobby as a kid. And I used to say that I sort of lost interest in reading, or I didn't read as much in uni and shortly after I started working, which may be true, but thinking back, I think I was always reading in some way. I think what I stopped doing was reading physical books and reading a lot of the kind of books that I used to read as a kid. So growing up, I used to read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of long series. Like I was a series kind of reader. I would read like Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, Hunger Games. I really liked like multi-book series. And then here and there also I was reading a lot of novels. I think in recent years, I think the period where I was reading the least was probably COVID, because I was just overstimulated by everything, so reading was the last thing on my mind. And it's only recently, maybe in the last year and a half, when I started making reading a more consistent, like really consistent habit. And I think what helped the most was that I started commuting to work. So I would have long stretches of time in the train, and that helped me to restart my reading habit. And I feel like it's just been uphill from there. Just like creative blocks and writing blocks, I think you also get reader's block, where you feel overwhelmed by all the books that you think you should be reading, or all the books that people highly recommend. And there was one advice that I heard, and I can't remember where I heard it from, but somebody said that to overcome reader's block, just read whatever is easiest for you to read at any given time. So for instance, I always feel like I had to be reading this specific novel because everyone's talking about it, or it's a classic, or I've heard that it's life-changing and it's been on my to-read list for ages. But if I have no desire to read that book, I'm gonna have to force myself to read it. Whereas if I were to just read a book that is easy for me to read, that I'm interested in, and that I don't have to force myself to read, then why not just read that book? So for me, the past year and a half has been a lot of non-fiction, self-help books pretty much. And that was something that I never used to like reading, or was even at all interested in when I was younger. I never read any non-fiction books, any self-help books. I thought they were a bit cringe, but now it's the thing that gets me excited to read. And then from there, I was able to branch out into other genres. So not just novels, but also graphic novels, memoirs, and then different kinds of fiction that I typically don't read. But what needs to happen is that you need to kind of develop that excitement for reading again. And it's just been massively beneficial for my life to get back into reading again and to have a consistent habit to read. I feel like it's helped my attention a lot. It's helped improve my life a lot. I've learned a lot. So I cannot overstate enough how glad I am that I restarted this habit. And I guess also my environmental change has helped. Like having that commute to work gave me like a specific place and time to read, and then from there it's just become more habitual and more natural for me to pick up a book. I've also been visiting my local library a lot more. So that's another thing that has changed. When I was younger, the library was the place that my parents brought me all the time, and then when I started reading ebooks, I stopped going to the library. And then when I was in uni, I was just reading like assigned readings and stuff. So I haven't gone to the library maybe in over 10 years. And then when I started reading again, the library became my main source of books. and I've gotten really into reading physical books, almost to the detriment of reading e-books, because I used to read e-books all the time. Everything that I read was on a screen. But recently, after I started reading physical books, I almost cannot focus on an e-book. I cannot focus on a screen, which does feel a bit like a loss, because now it's like if I don't have a physical book, then it's harder for me to read. I can read articles and stuff on my phone, but when it comes to books that are just in e-book form, I find it very hard to concentrate, especially like when I read on my iPad and stuff. It really doesn't match up to reading the physical book for me. But yeah, that is the third habit that has changed my life. I've been talking for almost 30 minutes and I'm still only on the third habit, so I really should quickly go through these. My fourth habit that has changed my life is to always keep the house tidy. I live in a 2-room HDB. It's a pretty small house. It's only, I don't know how many square feet, like maybe less than 500 square feet. So granted, it is much easier to keep a small space clean than a larger space. But also in a smaller space, when things are untidy, it fills up more of the space because a bigger percentage of the space is cluttered. And so ever since I moved here, which was about 4 years ago, I've always been very particular about tidiness and having a place for everything in the house. And that way, it's very easy to put things away because I already know where it lives. And I think being a bit more of a minimalist also helps because then you have less things in general to put away. So that is also something that has helped a lot. I also have certain routines that I do every week. So I vacuum and mop the house twice a week or at least once a week. I always put away my laundry the moment it's done. I have designated areas to put things when I don't know where to put them. So for instance, I have this shelf behind me. That is what I call my dumping ground for like letters or little things that I want to declutter or things that I don't have a home for. I usually put it on that shelf. Because everything else in my life, I know where they're supposed to go. They have a designated place to stay when they're not in use. I also invest in tools that make it easier for me to keep my house clean. For instance, I'm a big fan of my robot vacuum. I always talk about it in my vlogs. I always show it in my vlogs because it's really been game-changing. Like I just run it through the house and it vacuums and mops the floor, and the feeling of the floor under my feet contributes to like 50% of how clean I think my space is. So if you're able to invest in good quality appliances or tools that make the job of cleaning easier, I really think it's a worthy investment. Like making sure that you get a good washing machine or getting a good laundry detergent that you love the smell of, like getting good quality wiping cloths, all those little things that make the act of cleaning your space more enjoyable. I think it's worth it. So that's a habit that I always keep up with. I think when things are already messy in your head, being in an environment where everything else in your external world is messy is just awful. So even if things are messy internally, you should try your best to make sure that your external space is not messy, because sometimes you just need to clean your external space and then let the internal mess in your head sort of clean up with it. I find that even when I'm feeling off, sometimes I just need to clean my physical space and then I'll feel a lot better. It's like a mental hack in a way to kind of figure out what's happening in your head by focusing not on the thing that's going on inside your head, but just the things that's happening outside, things that you can control and what you can put away and what you can make clean. So that is something that is a very important part of my life, to make sure that I maintain my external space to be tidy and neat. Okay, so my fifth habit that has changed my life is journaling. I started a journaling habit in August 2023, shortly after I read Atomic Habits. And previously, I've always had journals and notebooks, and in uni I remember journaling quite frequently, but it was never as formal of a routine as it is now. So previously when I was in school, I would journal whenever I felt like it, and I carried a journal with me that held a lot of my notes and my thoughts about school and the classes I was taking. It was a bit of a commonplace book situation. It wasn't a journal. It was only 2 years ago that I formally started a journaling habit. So every morning, after I brush my teeth and do my skincare, I will make coffee and then I will sit down at my desk and I will journal for about 30 minutes. And it's the specificity of the time and the place that I journal that has made it into like a formal habit in my life. And I think it's made a huge difference in how consistent I am with the habit. So that is one way that I make it consistent, is to have a regular place and time. And also just the act of journaling alone. A lot of people have asked me what I journal about, and truly it's nothing exciting, it's nothing revolutionary. Sometimes I just talk about my day, usually because I journal in the morning, so I will talk about the day before, or I will just talk about whatever is on my mind, how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking. It's not so much what I write, but the act of writing it, I think, that helps with just emotionally regulating yourself and making you feel less, what's the word? Like, sometimes I feel like there is just so much happening inside me that is stuck, but when I try to write down my thoughts, even if I'm not able to properly express everything that I'm feeling, just having that output, that way to release the emotion, makes me feel better. So I think I can imagine, like, over time, the more you journal, the more easily you're able to self-regulate your emotions, because I think when you're not able to express your emotions and it's always stuck in you, that's when there's just a lot of anxiety and a lot of overwhelm that can be very hard for you to manage. So journaling has been a huge life-changing habit in my life, and I'm really glad I started. So on to the sixth thing. The sixth habit that has changed my life is to try to eat healthy 80% of the time. I write down 80%, but I think it's just the effort to try to eat healthy. And what has helped me is this general rule of thumb, which is to get enough protein, fiber, and healthy fats. I did not come up with that. This YouTuber called Abby Sharp came up with it, and I used to be obsessed with her videos. I was watching her videos back when I was trying to learn more about nutrition and eating healthy. I was watching a lot of her videos, and I still watch her. I still really like her. And she has this idea called the hunger crushing combo, where you try to get protein, fiber, and healthy fat in every single meal. And just having that framework, that general idea, has helped a lot, because in every meal I try to see if there is protein, I try to see if there's fiber and healthy fat in the meal. So, because sometimes nutrition can be very confusing, like there's the macros and the micros, and I was getting caught up in all these little details, when really what I needed was to take a step back and see the full picture. Because if you obsess over the little things, it's very stressful, first of all, and I feel like it becomes a chore that you might get tired of very quickly, and usually when that happens to me, I just give up on the goal entirely. But now that I have this very simple way to think about how to eat healthily or more healthily, then it becomes a bit more manageable. So for instance, just plain chicken rice, it seems like not the most balanced meal, but if I try to think, okay, there's protein in the chicken, maybe I can find fiber elsewhere, maybe I can get like a side of salad. And then healthy fats is usually the more difficult. Like, it's very hard to find healthy fat, but fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, I love sardines, those are also full of healthy fats. I think yogurt also. Yogurt, avocado. So now I don't skimp on the extra avocado in my stuffed chicken kebab, because I know that that'll make it a more balanced meal. So it's helped a lot in framing what makes a healthy meal for me, and that takes away quite a bit of stress when it comes to thinking about, am I eating healthily? Am I getting all the nutrients I need? That is one way that I think about eating healthy. Another way also is to have go-to meals that I know have all three of these things. So for instance, I mentioned my stuffed chicken kebab. I know how to make it have all these three things, and if I really don't know what to eat and I just don't really want to think about it, but I want to still eat healthily, then that is my go-to meal. Then another way also is I try to limit sugar where I can. I don't completely cut out sugar, because again, it feels too effortful, then it's not sustainable. So at least I try to always get the second lowest sugar level, so that's usually like 25%. And I try to limit to maybe one sweet drink a day. I basically try to follow the most boring rule of moderation when it comes to my diet. Everything in moderation. I don't stress out about eating fast food. I try to have a balance of healthy meals and meals where I'm not paying too much attention to whether it's balanced or not. But at the very least, I try to get the protein, fiber, and healthy fat. And just having that in my head has changed the way that I approach my meals. and make me feel less guilty about not eating healthy, and also feeling good that I am trying to eat healthy, if that makes sense. So that is one habit that has helped me and changed my life in terms of my diet and the way that I eat. So that is my 6th habit. My 7th habit that has changed my life. Sorry, it sounds like a lot, but we're coming to the end of the list. So my 7th habit is planning my week. I mentioned it in a vlog before, but I do these things called Sunday weekly resets, which happen on Sunday, and there is a list of things that I typically do on Sundays, such as cleaning my house and also looking ahead at the coming week. So I look at my calendar, I see what existing commitments that I have, like dinners with friends or something, and then I time block my entire week. So my work, like usually I'll time block a whole thing of work, and then my morning routine, my night routine. I talk about it in greater detail in my very first vlog that I posted on my channel, so you can watch that to see how I do it. But basically I time block my entire week to make sure that I take into account even things like commute time to different appointments that I have. And doing this all on a Sunday helps me not have to think about it during the week. I just sort of follow the plan that I have set up for myself on Sunday. And that takes a lot of stress out of like having to think, what time should I leave the house to get to this place at this time, because I've already thought about it. And usually when I have things to do or deadlines to meet, I often schedule that into my calendar as well. Like if I know I have to film a video on the weekend, I'll put it in, I'll schedule it in, and I'll also schedule in editing time, things like that. So just planning my week in advance has helped a lot in managing my time and having more realistic expectations of how much time I actually have to spend to do the things that I want to do. So when it comes to goal setting as well, sometimes I have all these grand goals that I think I want to achieve, but then when I look at my calendar, I realize I don't really have any more time to dedicate to this thing unless I take out something else, like I remove a commitment in order to add this new hobby in, things like that. Time blocking has really made it more clear to me how much time I have in a week and how I can more realistically allocate the responsibilities or the things that I have to do during the week. It's a bit like managing my finances. It's like knowing what you're working with. So in this case, it's just knowing what I'm working with in terms of the time that I have. And I've been time blocking for the past, I don't know, maybe 2 years, and it's just been life-changing and a really indispensable part of my weekly routine. So I highly recommend trying it if you feel like you're always struggling with time management, because you'll be surprised at how little time you really have in a week. I think that's the biggest revelation I've had when I started time blocking, which also means that I value the time that I do have, and what I spend my time on has to be really important to me. So that's the 7th habit. Next is my 8th habit, which is to maintain close relationships that I check in with regularly. This is something that I have been thinking about recently, because actually at the start of this year, I told myself that I would be more discerning about how I spend my time, who I spend my time with. And what that resulted in was me meeting people a lot less. Like I kind of put in less effort actually, except for those that are really like close to me in my inner circle. In general, I think I'm trying to find a balance between having my own personal time and making an effort to connect with my friends and keep up with their lives, and also making the effort to share more of my life with them. That has been an ongoing thing this year that I've been thinking about more intentionally. I think also growing older and knowing that my friends eventually will have less and less in common, because it's not like school where we have lessons, we have classes in common, we have that kind of student life in common. Now it's really it can be so different. Like I have friends in just different stages of life, and it can get harder and harder to maintain those relationships. I think this is just a topic that has increased in relevance for me in this period of my life. But distilling all that, the habit that I'm drawing from this is just to reach out to more people or make an effort to maintain the relationships, even at the expense of my own personal time and space. That is something that I'm trying to think about and negotiate with myself. Part of the reason why I was so burnt out at the beginning of this year also was that I had stopped meeting my friends entirely because I was so focused on my YouTube videos and my uploading schedule. And of course, if I'm spending all my time editing, then I'm not going out to meet my friends. But then if I try to do both, then I would just burn myself out, and that's what happened. So that is something that I'm working on. I think I'm willing to sacrifice some productivity if it means nurturing those relationships. That is the 8th habit that I'm trying to make an important part of my life. If it's a habit at all, I don't know if I framed it as a habit very well. But the last 2 things that I want to talk about, these are not in any particular order of importance, but I saved these 2 for last because I'm still struggling with these 2 habits. So as important as I think they are not something that I've integrated or that has successfully gained purchase in my day-to-day habits as easily as the other 8 habits have. And that is sleep and exercise. So that is the 9th and 10th habit that I want to talk about. So let's talk about number 9, which is sleep. It's very important to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, maybe even 9 hours if you need it. I actually think I need maybe 9 hours of sleep. 7 is great, but I feel like it's not enough. I always feel so tired and that I have to take a nap during the day. I think, and it's one of my goals for this year to get enough sleep and to sleep early and to wake up early. That is an ongoing thing that I'm working on this year that has not been very successful. I'm always facing trouble with it, but I know that it's important. I think because of that, I will just always keep working on it. I'll always try to sleep early and wake up early. I think at this point, it's the effort that counts. If I am making the effort, I'll count it as a win. I feel like once you have your sleeping routine settled, you would be unstoppable, no? Like, there is so much in your life that you can do. So that is what I think having a good sleep routine will be like once I actually get there. So that is the 9th habit that I am still working on and will continue to work on for the rest of my life. And the 10th habit is, of course, exercise, also one of my goals this year. And this is coming from somebody who used to hate PE. Like, all throughout school until JC, PE was the bane of my existence. I was a very scrawny kid. I was very tall and lanky, but very unathletic. I hated team sports. I hated any kind of sport. I hated sweating. So as an adult now, being like, you have to exercise, I feel like it's a real 180 character development moment for me, because as a teenager, as an adolescent, I could not relate at all. I hated moving. I just wanted to be still. But now that I'm older and more mature, I know that humans need to move, humans need to exercise and be active, and being strong is a huge indicator of longevity. Like, you want to grow older and be in good health and be able to enjoy life and be mobile. I think one major thing that has influenced me is also seeing my own family, like seeing how poor health has affected them and not wanting that to be my future. That's also why I've been more interested in exercising and taking care of my health and having a good diet. It's just seeing examples of people that I don't want to end up being like. So that has really impacted my perspective on how important exercise is. And I'm trying to go to the gym up to 4 times a week. So far, I've only been managing twice a week, which I think is good enough. I'll keep aiming for 4, and if I only manage 2, I think that is fantastic. I'm trying to build more muscle. I'm trying to be stronger. I'm also trying to just be a bit more active in my day-to-day. So taking the stairs more instead of just taking the escalator, walking more if possible. It's a bit hard in Singapore because it can be so hot and uncomfortable, but I'm still trying to squeeze in where I can, or at least I'm a bit more conscious of it and I try to make an effort. Having a habit of being active and exercising and working on building muscle and strength, that's a habit that I really want to have ingrained in my life to the point where it's just a natural part of my day-to-day or my week-to-week. It's not at that level yet. Sleep and exercise is not at the level of ease the same way that maybe taking a shower and doing my skincare routine is, but it's a constant effort to try to get it to that level. So yeah, those are my top 10 habits that have changed my life. Maybe I've been talking for a long time, so let me just summarize what those habits are. So these are the habits that I try to stay on top of and have changed my life because I have tried to stay on top of it. The first one is my personal hygiene routine, making sure that I'm taking care of my physical body and keeping it clean and healthy. The second is managing my finances. The third is reading. The fourth is keeping the house tidy. The fifth is journaling. 6 is eating healthy most of the time. 7 is planning my week. 8 is maintaining close relationships that I check in with regularly. 9 is sleep, and 10 is exercise. So that is the list of habits. So these 10 things are supporting the life that I have so that I can do other things like being good at my job or doing my hobbies or learning new skills. Because these are not skills, I feel like these are like baseline things to support me to be able to do these higher level things, if you know what I mean. So that's how I see those 10 habits. I also wrote a short list of habits that I think are incongruent with a better life, so the habits that I want to cut out of my life if possible. Maybe I'll just go through them very quickly. So the first one is mindless scrolling or doom scrolling on social media. So that's a very obvious one. You can waste so much time just scrolling. For me, I have this app called Screen Zen on my phone that blocks certain apps or like allows you to use an app for a fixed amount of time and only for a specific number of times a day. So for instance, I have Instagram on my phone because of my work. I can't not have Instagram on my phone. So I only allow myself to log into Instagram 4 times a day and for 5 minutes each time. So that basically limits my time on Instagram to 20 minutes a day. So that's how I try to limit my time on social media and also the amount of time I spend doom scrolling. And then my second habit that I'm trying to cut, which is also kind of related to the first one, and that is to stop staying up late doing nothing restorative. So for instance, instead of spending my time just mindlessly watching videos or scrolling on social media right before I sleep, I try to minimize that as much as possible. And like I have the app blocker. I also just try to like put myself in a state where I tell myself, do not scroll, do not watch these videos, just go to sleep. Like sleep is far more restorative and beneficial for you than trying to distract your mind. So that is something that I always have to tell myself every night. I've been trying to read books right before I sleep, or I will write my to-do list for the day just to get those thoughts out of my head. Then the third habit that I'm trying to cut is to also related again to my phone, that is to stop letting myself be constantly distracted and allow myself to just stare into space basically. It's a term called mind wandering. If you've read Stolen Focus, you can just look it up. But basically when your mind is not actively focused on one specific thing, that's when your brain can make connections between all your experiences and all the thoughts that you've had throughout the day, all the things you've learned, and make connections between them and sort of strengthen your mental network of ideas and thoughts. And I want to let more of that happen. So for instance, when I'm on my commute and I don't have a book to read, I try not to look at my phone. I'll keep my phone in my bag and I'll just people watch or I will just daydream. Like I want to try give myself more of that time. So rather than defaulting to my phone when I'm bored or when I'm waiting around, I try to just not look at it. I'm trying to cut the habit of always defaulting to my phone in those moments. So the fourth habit I'm trying to cut is to wake up late and start the morning in a rush. So that's also the reason why I have the journaling habit and I have the habit of wanting to wake up earlier, because one of my least favorite feelings in the world is waking up right before you're supposed to leave the house. So having to like do the thing you're supposed to do immediately after waking up, I hate that feeling. I love having a slow morning, a slow period, like a long period of time for me to just get used to being awake and get ready to face whatever tasks I have to do for that day. So for instance, like if I wake up late and then I immediately have to get ready and then rush out the door to go to work, I hate that. I hate feeling like I have to rush from waking up to leaving the house. I need like an hour breathing room to make myself coffee, to journal, to just sit at my desk and think about the things I have to do that day. That is my preference. So I'm trying to minimize that rushing feeling as much as I can. That is, I think, better for my mental health, better for my emotional regulation in general. So something that I recommend trying. I think if you always feel rushed in the mornings, that kind of sets the tone for the rest of your day, which is not a good feeling to have. So a habit that I'm trying to cut is that feeling of rushing in the morning. The fifth habit I'm trying to cut is comparing myself to others, especially strangers on social media. I think that's also a big reason why I don't really have social media. I don't have Instagram, I don't have Facebook. Basically, I have no social media, except the ones that I need to use for work. And that is because I know myself and I know that I'm extremely susceptible to comparing myself and feelings of inadequacy. So I'm basically like a drug addict trying to avoid all the drugs that I know will trigger me, metaphorically. But I guess addiction to social media is a real thing also. But yeah, that's basically why I don't have social media, because I know that I am very susceptible to this kind of comparison. And it's easier when I don't know it's easier when it's people that I don't know. So things like YouTube doesn't really bother me because a lot of the people I watch on YouTube, I don't know them personally. And so the distance, not really know that distance from the person makes it easier for me. But usually if it's somebody that I kind of know, like acquaintances, it's very easy for me to compare myself, and I feel very bad about myself, and I hate that feeling. I spent most of my teenagehood battling those feelings, and I told myself that the best thing for me right now is to just take myself away from any avenues where I might be exposed to having those feelings. So no social media for me, except for YouTube, which I really enjoy. Maybe it comes with growing older also, but I do feel just a lot more self-assured with myself and more comfortable in my own skin the older I get. I think it's an age thing, but also it also comes from being more mindful about my environment and curating that environment for myself. So that's also one thing. But yeah, the habit that I'm trying to cut is to compare myself with other people. Okay, the final thing on my habits to cut for a better life list is impulse purchasing things instead of wish listing and waiting. So as I've said many times on this channel, and possibly also the trigger for my whole personal finance journey, is that I have a habit of impulse shopping. Shopping for me is also something of an addiction that I'm battling, that I've always battled my whole life. And impulse shopping especially, I think, can be very addicting and potentially life-ruining if you don't manage it. So I have, over the years, forced myself to just put it on a wish list and then waiting out the desire. So when I do buy the thing, I know that I've been thinking about it for a long time. So as much as possible, I try to always put it on a wish list, like really dwell on it for a few days, a few weeks. So when I do buy it, I feel less like it was an impulse purchase and more like it was a thoughtful, intentional decision to make the purchase. Impulse purchasing is a habit that I would like to cut for a better life. And that's it really. Those are the 10 habits that I am trying to incorporate that have changed my life or has the potential to change my life, and all the habits that I want to cut out so that I can hopefully lead a better life. This is a bit of a rambly video, maybe some very obvious points, but I just thought I would walk you through them because they've been on my mind a lot, and I do think that they are worth talking about and appreciating. As I've said, like sometimes you just need to hold on to the small things when things are difficult. And I do really appreciate all these habits for keeping me upright, keeping me grounded and stable, and being like the bare minimum for me to be able to get on with my life and fix the things that I need to fix, do the things that I need to do. Yeah, that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!